One call won't save you. The officer's voice was low, smug, and way too confident for someone who just wrongfully cuffed a woman in the middle of a busy cafe. His partner stood at the entrance. Arms crossed, clearly amused customers froze mid. Phones recorded, and at the center of it all, she sat, hands behind her back, calm eyes locked onto the officer's face. She didn't cry, she didn't scream. She only said one thing slowly, clearly, "No one call ends you 30 minutes earlier." She had walked into that coffee shop like any other high-end professional woman, sharp heels, crisp blouse, and a presence that made heads turn. Some thought she was a model, others whispered she looked familiar. None of them guessed the truth. She ordered a simple latte, sat down near the window, and pulled out her laptop. That's when trouble walked in. Two officers entered, with a photo on their phone. A woman suspected of identity fraud, known to frequent high-end areas, wearing similar clothes. They scanned the cafe, and their eyes locked onto her without checking ID. Without questions, they moved in. "Mom, we're going to need you to come with us." She looked up, stunned but composed. "I think you have the wrong person." The lead officer gave a sarcastic smile. "Sure we do. That's what they all say." Before she could stand, he yanked her up, twisting her arms behind her back as gasps rippled across the cafe. "You're making a huge mistake," she warned, but they weren't listening. They were already reading her rights. She let them for a minute. She let the cuffs click around her wrists. She let every camera in that place catch her face. Her steady, composed, devastatingly beautiful face. And then she asked, "May I make one phone call?" The officer rolled his eyes and handed her a phone. She dialed one ring, then, "Hi, sweetheart. They don't know who I am. You might want to fix that." That was all she said. Then she handed the phone back with a smile. 10 minutes later, the entire cafe shook. 3 black SUVs screeched to a halt outside. Men in suits flooded the entrance, earpiece badges, authority that made even the cops stand at attention, step away from the woman. Now the officer hesitated. "What's going on?" he asked, voice suddenly cracking. A tall agent walked straight up, shoved a document in his chest, and growled, "You just detained the First Lady of the state." The cuffs dropped so fast they clattered on the floor. Silence suffocated the room. The woman stood, rubbed her wrists, and turned to the officer who'd smirked at her minutes ago. "You didn't ask for ID. You didn't check facts. You saw a pretty face and made a dumb assumption, and that officer ends careers." She walked out without looking back. Her husband, the governor, was waiting outside, the SUV rage burning behind his eyes. The officers weren't just suspended. They were investigated for misconduct, excessive force, and public endangerment within weeks. Both were removed from duty. The department issued a formal apology. The cafe staff framed a picture of her at the exact table with a plaque that read, "Grace, under pressure." What no one knew at the time was this wasn't her first time being underestimated. Years ago, she'd been a top federal prosecutor. Before that, an intelligence officer overseas. She gave it all up to help her husband rise to office, never once asking for recognition. But in that cafe, when 2 men thought her beauty made her powerless, she reminded the world that silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. The video went viral. "Wrong woman, right?" Call the headline. Read millions watched her handle the situation with poise while the officers crumbled under the weight of their mistake. Women across the country called her a role model. Men respected her restraint, and the governor, he changed statewide training policies on handling civilian encounters. Because of her, she never once spoke publicly about it, but insiders say her husband still keeps a photo from that day on his desk. Not because it was a scandal, but because it reminded him of the woman he married, the woman who could crush careers with a single phone call, but chose to do it with dignity. So don't mistake grace for weakness. Sometimes the most powerful person in the room is the one everyone doubts until it's far too late. Before we end this story, let us know in the comment, where are you watching from? If this story touched you, subscribe to the